hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah
on Pulse 95.
I am back again with another first world problem. Hope you guys are ready for this one. And that is, I basically spent approximately, I'd say maybe 10-15 minutes last night just trying to find something to watch on Netflix. And it's not like I haven't started a lot of things and just left them halfway. I've got so many shows, so many movies, so many anime that I just watched perhaps several episodes of, and just for some reason just stopped at some point. And it just that at that moment, and this is again peak first world problems, it just did not feel right. That is the exact reason. It just does not feel right to watch any of those things at that moment. Like, I could have went back and caught up with My Hero Academia. I'm behind by at least 4 or 5 episodes, but it just did not feel right at that moment. I could have gone back and watched the plenty, and I mean plenty, of Netflix shows that I've literally probably watched half of. Some of them I've reached maybe 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th season, and at that point I'm like, no, it doesn't seem right for me to watch it right now. So I spent way too long, in my opinion, and I know that I could have taken a lot longer just trying to find something to watch in the middle of the night. And the thing is, I know that my list of unwatched things is extensive. There are so many things. But what did I do in those 15 to 20 minutes? I know I keep adding 5 more minutes, but honestly, at that point, it felt like that time was incredibly long with my indecisiveness. Ended up just adding more and more to my to-watch list for when the right time hit. And the funny thing is, when is the right time? God knows, to be honest, at this point. I've just been randomly just feeling like, I think it's time to watch this. I think it's time to watch that. Funniest thing is that I've actually went back and started watching The Boys. I was watching it all the way back when it first came out. And if you guys have been tuning into the Afternoon Karak, you'd know that The Boys was literally the first thing we reviewed right here on the Afternoon Karak all the way back in 2019. And I just did not finish it back then. And I just went back a couple of weeks ago because it just felt right to finish that episode or finish that series. And I barely managed to get to season 2 before that weird sense of, I don't know what you can call it, attentiveness or this weird urge to watch just died down. And then when that went away, I was like, now what? What am I gonna watch? Well, good thing for me and for, I guess, you guys, because I don't think you guys want to hear me rant about it anymore, is that I actually finally started watching Castlevania. Woo to me. I'm so proud of me for finally getting to watch it. Again, it's been on my to-watch list since it started, basically. So it's only time for me to finally get into that fandom, and I know that Mikhail would be super proud of me if he found out about that. Welcome to the Afternoon Karak. I'm Aisha Al-Mazmi, running solo for a little bit longer. Today, just as promised, I'm going to continue on with our celebrations, and today, just like yesterday, is a food celebration. We're also going to be talking about Tom Hardy's Venom, which is, has been confirmed that he's going to meet Spider-Man in a future movie. I cannot wait to talk about this because I have a lot to say about this. My excitement is beyond the roof, but there are also some questions and speculations. You know what to do. Join in the conversation. 4215 Etisalat or do. Also going to be talking about this new Star Wars game, Star Wars Hunters. The trailer just came out and it feels very chaotic and very, very interesting. And finally, Activision Blizzard, again, being sued, but this time for labor violations. And those are just some of the things we're going to be talking about, guys. You know what to do. Just like I said, 4215 Etisalat or do. Join in the conversation. Keep me company as I keep you guys company from 4 p.m. till 5 p.m. only here on the Magic Hour and only here on Pulse 95.
What's the date?
What's the date?
What's the date?
What are we celebrating today?
Like I promised, we're going to continue on our celebrations because apparently September is a celebration-filled month, and I'm not going to stop celebrating as much as I can. And just like yesterday, our celebration is centered around food, and I think it is I'd say one of the best things to make, whether it's in the morning, when you first wake up and you're not sure about what to eat, you make this. For lunch, when you're like, I want something that is filling, but that is not too heavy, you can make that. And for dinner, or maybe a midnight snack, when you're like, I want something easy to make, but I don't want something that would be, just would require too many pots and pans and cleaning, but also has lots of depth of flavor, can be paired with anything. And that thing is cheese toast, because today is cheese toast day, or let's call it grilled cheese day, because it's basically the same thing. I mean, the only difference between a grilled cheese and a cheese toast is that one is grilled and one isn't. But they're both exactly the same thing, because grilled cheese does fall under the category of cheese toast. And what's interesting is that according to a website that I'm reading, cheese toast, or grilled cheese, was first created in 1958. And it is just very interesting to me, because you'd think that something as simple as cheese toast or grilled cheese would have been invented a very long time ago. But honestly, all I'm learning from every single celebration is that the things that you thought are brand new are actually hundreds and hundreds of years old. Meanwhile, the things you think are hundreds and hundreds of years old are actually quite new inventions. And I'm pretty sure that all of you enjoy some sort or version of cheese toast, whether it's grilled or not grilled. And I have a story for you guys, but it's a small, cute one, and that is my little cousin, who I call my mini-me. She's 8 years old. Whenever she sleeps over at our house, and she wakes up literally at 6 a.m., even when she doesn't have school, and I always ask her, what do you want for breakfast? And it's almost always cheese toast. Almost always. And it just shows you that it is a very simple, easy to love sort of dish. I mean, kids of all ages like it, even when it's at its simplest form, all the way to adults. And I have to say that I basically rediscovered my love for cheese through cheese toast or grilled cheese sandwiches, because if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have tried out so many cheeses. I mean, for a while, I was just going out and buying a ton of different type of cheese slices. Obviously, they're sliced because I cannot be bothered to sit down and slice them, obviously, or shred them. But some of them, that's a whole other discussion about, pre-shredded versus shredding your own, but we're not going to go into that. To each their own, basically. But in terms of buying like cheese slices from the deli counter, it's like one of my favorite things ever. And a couple of, I'd say maybe a year ago is when I started buying more and more different types of cheeses, and I discovered that I really love Monterey Jack. So I love adding lots of different types of cheeses just to layer them up, and basically, like I said, adding different depths of flavor and also adding different toppings. Nobody ever talks about toppings when they're talking about cheese toast or grilled cheese. One of my favorite herbs that I love adding, that I just randomly felt like, hey, let me add this to my cream cheese, and it was amazing. I love adding it to my grilled cheese toast, and that is rosemary, because it just adds a lovely, subtle, I don't know how to explain it. I wouldn't call it funkiness, but it's a nice added touch, a nice added layer to that cheese, and it's a bit of, I'd say, a refreshing note, a bit, kind of like that, and it just works with, I'd say, any cheese you want. You can put Gruyere, cheddar, whether it's mild cheddar or aged cheddar, whether you want to put Monterey Jack, whatever cheese you want, mozzarella, Parmesan, just add a little bit of rosemary on top of that, and it would be amazing. Even if you go for those cream cheeses, whether it's Philadelphia, Pug, Crowd, whatever you like, add a little bit of rosemary, and it would be amazing. It's a perfect thing to add. And another thing is basically adding or choosing the correct type of bread. I know we're talking about toast, but honestly, when we say toast, I'm going to be very vague about it and say just pick whatever bread you want, even though it's cheese toast day. Again, it still works out. I mean, if you go for regular sliced bread, do you want multigrain? Do you want ciabatta? Do you want, I don't know, any type of bread that comes to your mind, sourdough, brioche, even though I don't think brioche would really work, but maybe if you layered it in a way or add some extra condiments, whether it's, I don't know, some pickled radishes, pickled onions, if you want to add some jammy onions and jammy nice grilled onions, just layers and layers of basically doing whatever you want. And that is the reason why, again, I repeat that this is one of the best foods ever, because it's so customizable, so personalized. You can do whatever you want, but all it needs is some bread and whatever cheese you want. You can go crazy with the toppings, the type, etc., and which is why it is certainly a day to be celebrated, and that is Cheese Toast Day. So happy Cheese Toast Day to every single one of you. 4215 Salat or do I shared my little tips and secrets. Actually, I forgot one of them, and that is rubbing a little bit of garlic on top of your toast just to give it a little bit of funkiness, added layer of taste and whatnot. Or maybe when you're grilling it on a skillet with some butter, maybe make it some flavored butter instead. So again, more layers, more depth of flavor, etc. And you can personalize it as much as you want. So as I said, share with me your favorite ways of eating cheese toast. Is it with chips Oman? Because that also counts. And yeah, tell me all about it. 4215 Salat or do. I'm going to be moving on to our next big topic of the hour, and that is Andy Serkis himself, the director of Venom, basically saying that Venom is going to meet Spider-Man. It's not a question of if it's going to happen, but rather when is it going to happen? Coming up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Pulse 95.
Make a cup of tea. This is Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah.
You're listening to Pulse 95.
To be honest, I don't think I should be playing this music because we're going to be talking about Venom. And as you guys remember, Venom has been basically, he is not part of the MCU, but he is part of the adequately named. Now, I'm going to try my best to say it or try to remember it because it is a mouthful. It does not roll out as easily as the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the DC Extended Universe, but something that Sony is calling the SpiderMan Cinematic Universe, if I remember correctly. Is it SpiderMan Sony? It's basically a very long abbreviation, and they keep changing it every once in a while. So the reason I'm playing it because I am not sure about this very interesting declaration from Andy Serkis himself, the director of Venom, because he was asked by IGN, will Venom ever meet Spider-Man and when? And he was just bluntly said, of course it's gonna happen. Now, if it's of course it's gonna happen, which Spider-Man are we talking about? That is the real question. Because I don't think it was a matter of, okay, obviously it is a matter of are they going to meet? But the bigger question is, who and which Spider-Man are we talking about? Because, and this is a reason perhaps where this music can fall into place, because are we talking about the MCU Spider-Man that is played by Tom Holland? Or are they going to introduce a new Spider-Man that is going to be exclusive to Sony, especially since we know that Marvel and Disney basically has the rights to this version of Spider-Man for, I believe, maybe a contract or two. Like his contract is going to end soon. He has maybe a movie or two before his contract ends. And if you guys remember from last year, there was this whole conundrum with Disney and Sony basically fighting it off and trying to figure out what is going to happen with the future of Spider-Man, and basically Sony going like, hey, we're taking him back, and Disney saying, no, you're not, which could also be something that was just publicity, like a publicity stunt. We don't know really, but the question is still there and the confusion is still there as the kind of, I'd say, the lines blur between the two universes. And it was very interesting that Sony officially announced that they have their own universe. So when they say that Venom and Spider-Man will meet again, is it going to be Tom Holland or is it going to be a new Peter Parker? And at this point, how many Peter Parkers are we going to have in this lifetime, because it's getting a little bit too much? Or another question, Could it be Miles Morales? Because there is a very interesting, adequately so, basically a huge surge of interest in this character. So are we going to get this character officially introduced into a live action or not? Because we've seen him in video games, we've seen him animated several times, and especially with the success of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I believe that Sony would be quite smart if they give us Miles Morales over giving us another Peter Parker. And again, he says that it's just a matter of when it's gonna happen. It can happen anytime, basically. They just were looking for the right time for it to happen. And honestly, the right time could just simply be logistics for all we know. Again, the whole logistics with Sony and Disney. And it's a whole, are they fully gonna take Spider-Man back, or what is happening with that? It's all behind closed doors, and it's only, again, as usual, a matter of time before we find out. But the speculations do not stop and will not stop. So share with me, text me 4215 Vitisalat or do, and tell me, what do you think is going to happen? Which version of Spider-Man are we going to see? And what is going to happen within it's very complicated. Is it the SPUMC? I believe it's Spider-Man Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's very annoying. Mikhail and I have been trying our best to figure it out, and it was quite a mouthful. And then Sony went and changed it, and I'm still trying to figure that out. So guys, just stay tuned for that and so much more as we try to uncover it over the next couple of months, or perhaps the next couple of years. Who knows? We just need to wait and see. In the second hour of the afternoon Karak, I'm going to be talking about some video games, kicking it off with Star Wars Hunters trailer. Something very interesting and I haven't seen before in the Star Wars game universe. And Activision Blizzard being sued once again for labor violations. Coming up next right here on the afternoon Karak.
Make a hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah
On Pulse 95.
We're not going to be talking about any of the upcoming Star Wars TV shows or movies because we don't know much about them, and I'm not going to go on in another Star Wars rant, even though it's been quite a while since I've had one. But don't worry, guys. We're going to be focusing on the upcoming Star Wars video game, Star Wars Hunters, as we get our first glimpse into the game, the abyss of a galaxy far, far away, with a new cinematic trailer that offers some new gameplay details and a lot of interesting looks into this new world, because all we can see is a lot of action happening. It's a trailer that depicts basically a fight between a Sith warrior and a Mandalorian bounty hunter, and it just gets increasingly insane as more and more characters jump in, whether it's Wookiees, stormtroopers, Jawas, and a droid named J3D1, and so on. It just adds a lot of basically excitement to the entire game, because this game was announced all the way back in February of 2021 in Nintendo Direct, and it is a free-to-play multiplayer arena combat game for the Android, iOS, and a Nintendo Switch, and it is developed by Zynga, who are the creators of social games such as Farmville. So if you've played Farmville a very long time ago, you probably have heard of Zynga. Now, the game is going to be taking place on a planet called Vespara, home to an arena where hunters across the galaxy compete in team-based battles. So it is very interesting and looks super cool just from the get-go. And it is, I would say, it is a cinematic trailer, so it does not offer that much information into the world and how the game is going to be going on, but it is interesting to say the least. All it does is basically hype up players and potential players into joining this universe whenever this game comes out. We're not sure when it's going to happen, but it is expected to arrive in around sometime in 2022, whether it's the beginning or perhaps during the summer of 2022, so around a year from now, especially if you're trying to guess after the release of a cinematic trailer like that. The window is quite wide, to say the least. Now, Am I interested in it? Quite interested in it, because again, the cinematic trailer is boasting a lot of things, but then here's the thing. It's a cinematic trailer, and cinematic trailers can promise a lot of things that might not be true later on. But I have some questions. Mainly, is this going to be cross-play, and how is the game going to be? And even though it says free-to-play multiplayer arena combat game, what about the paywalls? Are they going to be just for cosmetics, or do I need to pay to unlock certain characters? Will I need to pay to get certain items? Is there some sort of loot box mechanism happening? Because if there is, that might actually decrease the value of the game, simply because a lot of people would not prefer that and do not like that at all. So there are so many questions that have to be, and obviously will be, answered soon enough. And also, we got a glimpse of the characters you can play. The question is, how customizable are they, or how many characters or perhaps types of characters that you can play, and what are the levels, and what are the different combat styles are they going to be boasting. And it's just an interesting game, and I feel like they have a lot to answer, and they also have, I believe, a lot of liberty going into this game. There are so many ideas and ways that they can make this whole game a very enriching experience, but I feel like they can fall into a trap and make it very limiting. But perhaps they want to make it small from the beginning and then add on more things as we go on forward. And of course, there are questions as in, is it going to be, there'll be some seasonal things happening, some new arenas, new types of things. But then again, if they want the game to last a very long time, they're probably thinking of all those things, adding in a whole lot of episodes into the game, similar to games like Battle Royale games like Fortnite does, to basically keep the game going for as long as possible, and again, to have an enriching experience. Once again, the Star Wars game the date hasn't been announced yet, and we're going to find out very soon, most likely sooner rather than later, as we get perhaps a Nintendo Direct very soon. I mean, fingers crossed. I'm not predicting anything, but I'm just hoping that we get one very soon. We continue in the world of gaming as we talk about another Activision Blizzard lawsuit, but this time it's a little bit different because this one is for labor violations. Coming up next right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Make a hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah
On Pulse 95.
Activision Blizzard is not going to be getting a break anytime soon, despite the fact that they have changed a lot of things within their workplace, according to them, of course, especially with the reshuffle of the executives all around. But apparently that is not enough, because the campaign to organize digital employees, known as Code CWA, has filed a suit against Activision Blizzard for unfair labor practices. So basically, based on this new suit filed with the National Labor Relations Board, it alleges Activision Blizzard engaged in intimidation and coercive tactics as employees fought to openly discuss pay discrepancy and their desire to enforce arbitration, which is basically something that was kind of discussed in the previous lawsuit. But again, perhaps it is just something to make sure that Activision Blizzard is actually getting exactly what it deserves for all the terrible things it has been doing over the past couple of years, and probably spanning at least a decade. Now, all the way back in July, the state of California sued Activision Blizzard for enabling a culture of constant harassment, where a lot of women, especially female employees, they ended up basically having a terrible experience. Like, I'm only using terrible, but honestly, the word terrible is an understatement for the things they've been going through for many years in that company. And even after that news came out and broke out, Blizzard employees staged a walkout that drew a lot of international attention, and a lot of people lauded them for their efforts and their courage to go out and stand against one of the biggest companies within the gaming industry, especially knowing that their practices were so bad that a lot of women ended up leaving the company. I mean, just one after the other, they were just leaving due to the constant harassment and the frat culture that they cultivated. And also there was this unfortunate news that one of the female employees had actually ended her life due to the constant harassment. And of course, that harassment was not only on the women, there were also plenty of other people, and especially men as well, who were also targets of this harassment. But it was mostly the female employees who were there. I mean, it was just a mess, and it was very surprising. But a lot of people were saying, is it really surprising that this kind of practice has been happening within the gaming industry? Because the gaming industry is notorious for those kind of behaviors, and it's basically a ripe place, a lush green ripe place that encourages it often. And some of the things that was being encouraged within Activision Blizzard was the fact that basically some of the employees were encouraged to basically play around, namely the male employees to play around, literally play around and play video games. Meanwhile, the women were scrutinized and forced to stay for long hours, and there were so many name calling, lots of other types of harassment. It's just very, very unfortunate and very, very upsetting. So I'm glad that they're being sued once again, even though the allegations are repetitive. But again, if they do not actually get exactly what they deserve, then what was the point of those employees standing up, basically making their voices heard and possibly putting themselves in really, really bad situations simply because they might be blacklisted from the entire gaming industry for being vocal like that? I mean, there's a lot of hardships on females and women in general in the gaming industry. Imagine them stepping out and walking out like that. They're basically putting their lives even in danger. So shout out to them. They are inspirational, and they basically leaders within the industry for the things that they're standing up against, because they're basically teaching the rest of us in the same industry and even beyond it in other industries that they should not stop, and that they basically, one of them has to start and somebody has to take the step in order for the rest to follow, in order to basically make sure that this kind of thing does not go by or pass by, and basically saying that this is not something that should be entertained any longer. So once again, shout out to all these women and the people who followed them into basically speaking out and standing against this bully, to say the least. And with that, we wrap up. We did speak about a Cheese Toast Day. We spoke about Venom and Spider-Man and the entire, the whole confusion with the MCU and I don't know what it's called, but the Sony version of their cinematic universe, their Spider-Man cinematic universe. I'm gonna nail it one day. I'm gonna get it right, guys. Just bear with me until I figure out that abbreviation. And also spoke about Star Wars' upcoming new free-to-play game from Zynga, the creators of Farmville, and lately also we talked about the ongoing Activision Blizzard new lawsuit. And if you guys have missed out on any of the conversations that we had on the Afternoon Karak, you know what to do. We do have our podcast that goes up shortly after the episode, so check us out. Search up Afternoon Karak wherever you listen to podcasts, and also check out our YouTube video where you can see my pretty face up there. Just search as Pulse 95 Radio. Subscribe, like, and comment on our channel. And with that, I wrap up and leave the desk for Yalla Home, Big Hassan, and Scoopio. Keep you guys company for the next couple of hours from 5 p.m. all the way till 8 p.m. with lots of entertainment, fun stuff, and all kinds of music, especially upcoming music from this part of the world, because not many people know about all those upcoming artists in the region. So check them out. Stay tuned and stay locked to none other than Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.